Supermarkets are cool, right? That's what's hip today. But no real supermarket ever tried to be terrible because that's just bad for business. However, in video games, businesses aren't real. You can make them as bad as you want, and they can still be there and exist, and only sacrifice some realism. However, in video games, the worst but still functioning supermarket I can think of is probably the Joja Mart, just because of how bad the people who run it are, even if it is still a perfectly fine supermarket otherwise. So in this video, I'm going to make the worst, ugliest, rundown supermarket I can. First, I'm going to cover the music, how I made it, and what I did to make it fitting for the worst supermarket. Then I'm going to go over the sprite in the order I worked on it. Most of the footage of the sprite work will be from my live stream on September 7th. If you missed it and want to be there for the next stream, subscribe and join the Discord for updates. So, let's begin. The music is pretty standard elevator music, so I'm going to explain the basics of how I made it. I started with the chords. I just looked up a basic chord progression of elevator music and chose a key. I added the first chord and then made this little 2-3 beat, like this. Then I used an image of the circle of fifths along with the chord progression that I found online to finish off the basic chords. After that, I started working on the effects. Hey, Editor J here. While working on the script for the video, I ended up adding another effect, so the final product sounds a bit different and more like a cheap MIDI speaker. The first effect I tried was a high-pass filter, and it sounded pretty good, but I ended up removing it and focusing on a more tropical type vibe for it, which sounded like this. After that, I added some steel drums into the mix with a simplified version of the main chords. Then I started making the melody. I used a basic MIDI trumpet and made this short melody as well as a B section. My goal for the melody was to sound almost good, but just be ever so jarring and mediocre that you could never enjoy listening to it for a long time over and over. It also doesn't help that the song is so short that it does just repeat a lot. Next, I added a bass line, but the line is the exact same as the steel drums, just without any rhythm, just one note after another for the same length of time. With all these elements combined, the repetitiveness, the way the trumpets scream on the high notes, and the cheap MIDI sound of it, the music helps create a small mini-mart type of vibe. That's it for the music. Now I want to take a look at how I made the supermarket look physically ugly. I started out as I always do, with a basic outline, then adding the outlines of the awning, sign, and door. Nothing insanely ugly yet. Then I add some cracks into the wall to make it look a bit broken down. Next, I gave it a really basic name. Supermarket. Now starts the really fun stuff. I added a layer of graffiti letters saying less than, making it the less than super market. I also added a few drops and drips of spray paint to sell the spray paintedness of it. Then I added the first hint of story to the building, a broken ladder that the store owner would use to try to get to the graffiti to erase it. After that, I started furnishing the outside with a window and some posters. The first thing I added was a window with a teddy bear and a discount sign in a jarring yellow. Then I started making movie posters for really cheesy action movies that may be available to buy tickets for at the local theater. The first movie is called Blazin' Explosion, starring Bob M., which is a small reference to the person who gave me the idea for the movie, Majestic Bob. The second movie is called Today Never Next Day. I didn't have space for the word tomorrow, I would have done that. Now, perceptive viewers will notice the word explosion in the first movie has more letters than tomorrow, but because of how pixel letters work, tomorrow would have taken up more space and wouldn't have gone with the vibe of the poster. Now we go inside the store, where things are about to get worse. Way, way worse. I again start off with the outlines of the shapes and then start filling in the colors. Then I started filling up the checkout aisle with bags of chips, sticks of gum, magazines, and boxes of donuts. Now you may think that nothing is wrong with these items, but just wait till you are allowed to buy them. Then you'll see the issue with them. Next, I started working on the main aisle of the store. The first thing I did was add in a jumbo-sized thing of toilet paper, as well as some cereal boxes. The one thing of toilet paper is there because the store owner is prepping for the people prepping for the apocalypse. What I mean by this is that the store owner only has one thing of toilet paper because they know that when the apocalypse comes, people will pay a lot more for toilet paper, especially with the low supply and high demand. Then there's a cake. It's a pretty normal and good cake. It probably tastes good. But then you realize what's hanging just above the cake. Fresh caught from the basement of the supermarket, it's fresh rats. Then I added some ugly yellow lights as well as 2 new shelves. On the first one, you can buy freshly warmed milk. On the second one, to go with the apocalypse people, is a shelf of canned mystery meat that supposedly has an infinite shelf life. And in-game, you will be able to test this. So, with all these things, the spray paint, the cheap-looking movies, and the terrible items being sold, the supermarket now feels like a cheap sort of rundown building that nobody would ever use to buy groceries, but it still can exist because it's in a video game and it's not real. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. Also join the Discord for updates on my new videos, additions to the game, and live streams. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.